Hello and welcome to Stranger Stopping Strangers. This is podcast number 33. Thank you so much for joining. A big welcome back to anybody who's returning, and thanks for stopping in to anybody who's new this week. Well, this week's podcast was another face-to-face, which are just so much fun to be able to really meet people in person and shake their hand. Papa Bear and I met in Salem, Massachusetts, and just had so much fun getting a chance to meet one another, and I get to hear his stories, and now I have a friend that I can go listen to music with, so just a win all the way around. Papa Bear's stories, a lot of them go around a friend named Tom that you're going to hear all about. He met Tom a couple months after his first show in 1989, and a lot of his song picks and experiences really swirl around the relationship and tell the stories about how, you can meet a friend and they can become a mentor and ultimately a brother, and just so entwined with his life's experiences. So really enjoyed hearing about them and the songs, and I hope you do too. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Once in a while you can catch on the line and swing just the places if you look at it right. So, Papa Bear, welcome.
Oh, it's a real pleasure to be with you, Stacy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We've talked on the phone, and you have so many beautiful stories, and I know everyone's going to want to hear, your music selections and some of the stories that went behind them.
Well, my story starts, I think like everybody's, on the first show that I went to. It was July 2nd, 1989 at what was then Sullivan Stadium in Foxboro, and I think I knew maybe 2 songs at the time. I heard Casey Jones coming home from an Ozzy Osbourne concert once, of all things, and that day is the same t-shirt I had on. I didn't know the Dead. I actually went because I heard it would be it'd be a good time. Heard it would be a very good time, and it was. I'll never forget, in the parking lot, this huge parking jam from hell I'd never seen before, and the guy in the car next to me, he had a bowl lit, and he just turned to me and said, "Do you want something?" I said, "Sure." I took a hit off, and I said, "That doesn't taste right. It doesn't taste like pot." And he said, "It's not. It's opium." I said, "Well, we're not in Kansas anymore, I guess." And the day went on, and I did some of this and some of that, and I do not remember most of the concert, but I do remember at least not the music. What I remember was that moment where just something happened. Something was I can't explain. Everything kind of just mixed together. That intranscribable moment, yes, where again it's the smells, the sights, the people, the music, that glow that all comes together. I was standing up. I clearly remember standing up at some point and seeing all these people around me just dancing away, and without even realizing it, so was I. And I had never heard this music before, nothing. And at the end of it, I was with a friend of mine who was completely straight, and he said, "That really sucked. Are you happy now?" And I just said, that was it. He said, "No, Sean, when you come down, you're going to realize this." No. I said, "No, I'm never going to be the same." And the next morning, of course, came, and I said, "All I want is more." Yeah. That was my stop. So everything made sense there. I don't know what it is, but it made sense. Oh, that's awesome. And that's when it happened. That was, and then I looked back and saw that it was an amazing show playing in the band opener. Beautiful, Crazy Fingers. But I was hooked. All I knew was I wanted more. I wanted everything I could possibly get my hands on to get closer to, not even just the music. I wanted to get closer to it. That was there. It was like church for me. It really was. Well, I completely agree, and I would imagine the majority of these people that are listening to this podcast are fondly thinking back to their first day at church, and that's just what's so awesome about the community and getting to meet. And what's funny is I'm thinking to the podcast I had recently with a 20-year-old Connor, and he explained his moment to me a couple weeks ago at Further with Eyes of the World. And so, it transcends even the core band. It transcends age, decades, you know, I mean, the story is different, but the emotions and the connection it's the same. And that's just so beautiful, right?
I think it's what everybody, whether it was in 1968 or 1989, everybody went there and who stayed was there for something. We weren't looking just for music. There was plenty of music around. And there are other artists I like that I enjoy and I get off on, but there was something that Dead got me that nobody else, I think, gave me or any of us, because that's why we're still here.
That's why we're talking. That's why we're talking. Well, I've said many times on this podcast, I'm sure, and I will say again for now, other people have concerts, but the Dead put on a show.
They did, and I think the best part of that is to realize we were part of the show.
That we're part of the show, right? That's the difference. It's like you go see awesome musicians, and I love them, and I've gone and seen Neil Young and Steely Dan, and I mean, just, you know, great concerts. But when you go to a Dead show, that's why they're called shows, because that we're all part of the show. We're all participating together, and it's the difference. I can't say a Grateful Dead concert. It's a Dead show, you know?
It's a bunch of people getting together to Phil said something to this effect that everywhere we play is church, because what is church? Someplace you go with a group of people and, you know, to basically get outside of yourself through music, through dancing, whatever it is. And that's what it is to me. That is my church, and those are my people, you know.
I totally agree.
And the people were, when I went there, just the first show I went to, I was blown away, coming from a world where people were very cynical and not as friendly, there wasn't a lot of love, kindness, and there it was on display, dripping everywhere. And that too drew me in, that, wait a minute, this is possibly how the world can be, and there are people like this, and it's okay to be, you know, kind and all these other things. And that drew me in too. So it's such a big picture. It's like that all adds up to, now we're going inside. Really? I've been here for 5 hours, and now I get to now the culmination.
Yeah, it hasn't even started, and I'm having the best time. And we get music now too.
and that stuff out in the parking lot transcends, you know, whether you got high or you didn't. It was much more than that. There was a collective vibe there that you put thousands of people together who have that same intention of, you know, here for the same purpose and spiritually, you know, tied the same way, and, you know, laughter and kindness, bubbles come on. I mean, what bad can come out of that? All it can do is get bigger and then put us all together inside with, here's the band, and it's like the elements that make gunpowder. You put them together and it just
explodes. And then there really are bubbles and balloons too, you know? When I was describing the shows, when I went and saw Dead and Company last summer, and I took pictures and talking to my daughter about it, she's 7 now, she was 6, and saying, there's balloons, you know, like, I mean, you would just go nuts. Like, you know, there's glow sticks. Yes. Like, I remember last year being at one of the shows, and like, as soon as the sun went down, suddenly there were 2 glow sticks in my hand. Like, I don't know where they came from, who threw them up, but like, what do you need now? You need a glow stick to do the drums, you know, with like, to like, be your own, your own conductor of the music, you know, and it's like, where else does the sun go down? And all of a sudden somebody has thoughtfully brought you glow sticks. I didn't bring the glow sticks. Somebody thoughtfully just threw out glow sticks. And, it really is. It's not only a day of beyond description, but the people, the community, the shows, the whole thing, you know, and we wouldn't be there without them, but they didn't bring the glow sticks, you know, some hippie next to me did, and so much fun. I think I still have the glow sticks from it. You got to keep on, like, I've also come to realize as I've gotten older to like keep on to every one of those cool souvenirs, because they're so meaningful later, and I've lost so much shit. I mean, if I had all the cool shit that I had from 25 years ago, you know, all the Dupree's Diamond Blues and all the stickers and the weird set lists.
Oh, the stickers. I miss the stickers.
Just that weird shit that people would give you.
Like, just put on you walking by. Here you go. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I could have I have a little treasure trove, but it's much bigger in my mind than it is in my, you know, closet.
Do you have any of your bracelets still?
I have one. I'll send you a picture of. I have one that the anklet, the Scarlet Begonia bells on my shoes. Nice. I have my anklet.
I have those too.
I have a crown that I wore on New Year's Eve that was like a sad little, like it seemed so grand at the time, and it's like just some like green, you know, like a green like kind of wrapping paper ribbon, you know, like
perfect.
It's not what the kids are wearing these days. No. You know, it's pretty basic, and I got a few treasures in a box for sure.
Did you ever put any paint on your face? Paint, glitter?
I'm sure I have. Okay, yeah, good. I'm sure I have. And I will this summer. Yes, because we've talked about that.
Yes.
Yes, we will be doing the glitter at SPAC, because you're going to SPAC this
I am. I'm going, 8 of us. I've never been there either, so I'm very super excited.
Oh, it's so amazing. I mean, I brought my husband last year, and he enjoys great music, but is not a deadhead. Mm-hmm. And he had the best time and said he would only go back to SPAC, that he wouldn't want to deal with Fenway or inside venues or anything else, just is not for him. But SPAC was magic. So
lots of room, and they let you bring like a picnic basket in. You can put blankets down, and really, like, it feels like you're really welcome to it. Have a good time. Red Rocks is like that, and Colorado is like that.
That was totally the vibe. And I said, do you want to go to Fenway after? And he was like, no, not really. He's like, you have a good time, but I will go back to SPAC. So, so 5-star rating from a non-deadhead. So there's, that's a strong recommendation.
I did not go to any of the shows last year. I had a wait and see because they were so expensive. And just the other day, Melanie and I were listening to them, and I said, this is pretty good.
I'm excited for you to see it.
The arrangements were a little slow, but I said, well, I said things take time, and I said, maybe it's also, at least it's different because everybody's waiting for is Shakedown Street through faster. Instead, it's more tune. So I'm at least they are trying to keep it different, because how many ways can you play the same? So that,
a million and one ways.
But he was right on. I was really, he grabbed me, and I've heard him. I know he's a competent player, but he really grabbed me when it was the Fenway show. I heard, was just from last summer. It was really good.
Yeah.
It got me excited to see them really like, what, it's okay to love you. It's okay to let my guard out and love you, because this is going to be all right. All right, I'm in.
Yeah.
What I mean?
And that's what's going on, and it's the new generation.
I was afraid to have my heart broken. You know what I mean?
I do. I don't feel like when I went and saw him in Worcester, I don't think my expectations were that high. And honestly, no disrespect to the DCU Center, formerly Centrum, but it's a pretty shitty venue in the grand scheme of just, inside, man. Small, crowded, the acoustics weren't great. Like, it wasn't a great venue, but they were so great. And then I saw them at the Civic Center, and that's an amazing venue, and it was open. Oh, it was amazing. And it was general admission, and you could get down to the floor, and it was open and airy. So yeah, it was, after that, it was like locked and loaded, full speed ahead. I remember sitting with a girlfriend in January, February of 2016 and saying, I am going to every fucking concert I can get to next year. And I think it was like 5. And then, let's do it, so the train out of the station. Well, I want to go into some music, because this podcast is all about talking about the music and then, of course, hearing the music. So we have to talk about the music and not hear the music. And, I'm going to mix it up a little on you. I'm going to throw you a curveball, because a lot of times, we play songs at shows you were at, and you pick some amazing songs that tie into your experiences with a very close friend we're going to talk about next. But I want to pull a song out from your first show, because we just heard about the show. I feel like I was there, and I want to pull a song out from it. So I'm not even going to put you on the spot to pick the song right now. I think this can just be like a surprise for the listeners. Like, we're now going to play a song from 1989. It was
July 2nd.
July 2nd.
Sunday night.
So we're going to go through and we're going to pick out a tasty song, and it'll be on the website, but at this moment in time, none of us know what song that's going to be. So let's go in and do that, and then we're going to come back and go on down the journey.
Well, we are back, and since the break, we have settled in on a song from that show from July 2nd, 1989, and it had to be Eyes of the World.
That's my favorite song. It really is that I think, because it is all about awakening. It's about awakening what is that other theme in that song? Silly mind. That hardiness that comes with nature, because things are going to, the seasons come and they get really rough, and then it gets nice again. You have to be able to float, just keep going with it.
Yeah.
But it really was the awakening for me. I mean, it's not even Born Again. It was Born the First Time.
Born the First Time. Well, I think it was a beautiful pick, and I mentioned a minute ago, it was Eyes of the World that Connor got turned on. It furthered. So
nice.
That just makes me happy. And that was, 2014 versus 89. So what is that? That's 25 years later. Right. So there we go.
That's great. I love to hear that. I love to hear young, kids. They are kids. They're younger than me. If they're in their 20s, they're kids. I'm 45. I love seeing that and hearing that, the excitement then when they talk about, I just heard this. Can you tell me anything else to listen to? Yes.
Yes, I have quite a bit.
Oh my God. And you see the energy and like, I just found it. Isn't it feel,
Yeah.
And I know there are some people like, oh, here's these young kids again. I used to be
exactly.
generation.
We were those kids. And honestly, yes, that, and even more so, what do you want these kids to be being turned on to? What are the choices? Do you want them to learn about kindness? Do you want them to, live their lives by, the lyrics written by Hunter and Barlow and Jerry and Phil and Bobby? I mean, the lyrics, the music, the philosophies. I mean, what else? I've heard plenty of music out there that's being produced, and there's nothing else no other road that I would be like, oh no, you need to go down this road. Like, that's going to get you to a good place.
Even the way they play, the philosophy who they are, and the way they play, that at their best, they listen to each other. It's all a part of us all pulling this, all doing this all together, and they, include us in with it, because without us, what would they be doing? A bunch of people sitting there, not just playing, listening around, and
it'd be a studio recording. Well, I want to get on the story, because before we started talking, you had said, really all of the song selections you had picked, all are surrounding, a relationship, a brother of yours, and had told me a bit about how you first met. So let's talk about your early beginning, and then we'll go into the next song pick that was, along with the rest of them, introduced to you by him and, the special place that he holds in your journey.
Well, like I said, I met him, when I met him in the college bookstore in 1989, 2 months after my first show.
So this is Tom.
Tom.
So we can call him Tom.
Yes.
Okay, Tom.
He had just come off of, I don't know, it had to have been 5-6 years of straight Dead tour all over the country. And here I was saying, I just saw one show, and he kind of rolled his eyes and smiled and said, oh God. All right. Well, ironically, he didn't have a car. He said, can you give me a ride home? I said, yep, no problem. And I went into his room, and he had this sprawling record collection I had never seen in my life. Tons of Grateful Dead bootleg albums. And I just started flipping through them. And
were you living in Massachusetts?
I was.
Okay.
He lived about, 20 minutes from me. So, we went up to his room, sat down, and I'm flipping through, and I pulled out Make Believe Ballroom. I said, what the hell is Make Believe Ballroom? What's this? And he said, you've never heard this? I said, no. What's Blues for Allah? And he took it out and said, you're going to find out right now. And he just had a huge smile on his face, like, you're going to enjoy this. And he dropped the needle on it. And about 4 hours later, after continuously listening to it, I was just floored, because all at this point I'd heard was scattered little bits of, I was just trying to find any little bit of Grateful Dead I could find. And here comes this, I meet this person who's like,
here's the good shit. All right.
I'll take you the rest of the way.
The other stuff's good, but here's the really good shit. Like I enjoy a mainstream or a fun boppy lyric, but here's something that's really going to change your life.
It was so special, and it put it in that mythical context of, wow, this is, which is what I just felt after just seeing them. Like, who is this? And it just added another layer to that myth of, from the intro to and then the backstory that went with that. Why are they playing here? What's why is this so significant? Why are they playing it? Well, they play for 2 years. Why? And then it just, And I had this tour guide with me, this person who was an older brother to me who I really needed that I never had. And he was like that for the rest of our time together. He always was the one to say, here, you need this now. Okay. And every time he would go away, he would go to Oregon back and forth. He would come back with some musical something for me and say, I found this. And we would listen to it sometimes the first time together. I just found this tape. Listen to this with me. And that was really the crux of our relationship. I mean, ironically, we never saw a show together. Never, ever saw one. He was always out in...
he was on the West Coast.
He was on the West Coast, and I was always here, so we never went to any of those Boston Garden runs. That was the irony. We never went to one together.
No, but you shared it, on a deeper level. So, and again, in its own way, you were there with each other,
He was the right person at the right time who showed up. I mean, of all places, just in the college bookstore. Which the funny thing about that is when I taken the SATs, I wanted to go to the state college and I had tickets to go to a concert that night. And I made a very conscious decision to say, I'll go to community college. Just filled in all the bubbles and said, I'm out of here. I called for my ride and I said, the test is over. They said, no, I'm sorry, is the test over? I said, for me it is. I'll go to community college. And if I had not made that decision, I wouldn't have met Tom.
Wow.
Because and that would have been a completely different, and even then it was all about music. I need to get out of this test because I want to be around live music. So.
Well, there you go. And you're still on the same path. Here we are, many years later.
Almost 30.
Yeah, almost 30 years later.
30 years later.
Well, let's play the next pick. So the next pick is, and this is so fun. This is, and I love From the Vault. I mean, I love this album. It's one of my favorites. I love the Donna. I love The Music Never Stops. I love the Help Slip Franklin. I love The Eyes of the World. I mean, I love so much on this album, but you picked doing the intro. So we're going to do the intro and then we're going to do, Help Slip. Well, we'll do it at that. We'll keep it Help Slip just for essence of time. Yep. But on the companion only guide, I'm going to put Help Slip Franklin. So, cause you got all the time in the world once you hit that companion only guide. So we're going to do the intro Help Slip on the podcast. And then we'll come back with some more stories and I'll throw the Franklin in for the full listening guide. Cause it's a little bit of a teaser. So let's go enjoy that. One of my all-time favorites. And then we'll be, back a little bit more down the road. Enjoy.
To the Make Believe Ballroom.
Good evening. We welcome you on behalf of the group. We should introduce. On the piano, we have Mr. Keith Gottschall. On the drums on stage left, Mr. Mickey Hart. On bass and vocals, Mr. Philip Lesh. On rhythm guitar and vocals, Mr. Bob Weir. On the drums on stage right, Mr. Bill Kreutzmann. On the vocals, Mrs. Donna Jean Gotcho. On lead guitar and vocals, Mr. Jerry Garcia. Would you welcome, please, the Grateful Dead.
promise I got you today. Don't fly away, 'cause I love what I love and I want it that way. I will stay one more day. If I say, honey, it's you. Making it two. Without love and the dream, it never come true. Yeah.
well, we are now back from listening to a intro from Bill Graham and Help Slip. And you get the Franklin if you download the full music only. So there's just there's so much music, you know. I mean, I could make 4-hour podcasts between the chatty that I am and the catalog of music.
You're a great interviewer. You're not a chatty.
No, I'm a interviewer. I can chat and chat forever. So, but we gotta keep it concise because I've gotten this in my mind that I'm trying to keep the podcast around an hour. And I don't know, that could change too. This is a new adventure, so who knows? Maybe down the road they'll end up being, hour and a half or two. So, at this point I will say there's a little message me. So, this podcast is all for you guys. It's all for the community. This is all for fun, for love, and us meeting here, sharing stories. So if you guys want to hear, long ass podcasts, you just send me an email and we can just
do a long old chat.
Long chat and full music. So I want to hear more about Tom, because Tom was the epicenter of the stories, and you had said he kind of had come back and forth and brought you some music. So, tell us a couple more of the gems that he brought on back.
Sure. Well, over the course between 89 and 91, he loved Oregon. It just seemed like every time he came back here, he wanted to be there, and when he was there, he'd say, well, I gotta come back there, I don't want to, but he would always go back and forth between the West Coast and Eugene. And on another time he had left and come back, he called me up and said, I got this tape that I traded someone for in Golden Gate Park when I was living there for a bit, and I traded this up for this tape. You got to come over and listen to it. Okay, so I went over, and I had never really heard. I hadn't heard Sunrise before. I hadn't really heard. If I had heard a Terrapin, it was something off of what do you call it? Probably a record. Probably.
Right. Studio album.
Yeah. So I'd never, and certainly had never heard Sunrise before, so I didn't even know who Donna was really. And so I went over his house, and as usual, we rolled a bunch of joints, and we're sitting there, and I was just floored. We got to the Samson was unbelievable. I love where Bobby is in the mix. You can hear him so well, especially. But when it got to Sunrise and everything kind of quiets down, I said, "What the hell is this?" And he just looked and said, this is this beautiful hippie chick that sang with him. This is Donna Jean. And I know the flack she gets from people, and I know she sings off key, and at times she hollers and whatnot, but from the first time I heard that Sunrise at the Patrick Gymnasium, I was a fan right there. I loved her unconditionally and said, whatever you do, it's okay with me.
Well, I'm a big fan of Donna Jean's too. I don't know. I don't feel like there's any room, and again, other people may not feel this way, but I don't feel like there's any room for any shadiness around any of the bands. I feel like everybody brought something great to the table, and I really enjoy all the eras and love like the early, the days, the late 60s and Pigpen and, just the style of music that they came out with that's just much more, freelance, hard hitting. Yeah. And then, getting into the 70s.
Softens up a bit.
It softens up a bit. And really, when you think about some of the albums and some of the music and things I have on my list, I mean, they are Donna. I mean, I love Shakedown Street. I mean, she's got From the Heart of Me and, I love the song France. I mean,
France.
You never hear it, but I mean, I love that song. It's such a good song. And, I love her with, so many, When the Music Never Stops and she plays, comes in on that. And she can do no wrong to me because it's all part of it's another ingredient in the recipe. And, I guess it's like some people like, chocolate chips in their cookies and some people don't, but.
Or people who like Moxie. Have you ever had Moxie? It tastes like licorice and cough syrup. A lot of people don't like it, but people who do like it love it.
Well, that's a classic Jerry, right? You just walked right into that one. We're like black licorice. Not everyone likes black licorice, but the people who do
love it. Really, really, really love it.
Really, really love it. Well, again, I love it all. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that, and then of course the Brent era, and I think
technically and band-wise things, after Brent, obviously, kind of, they had passed their peak for sure, and many, many peaks. But I was just listening to a concert from '93. It was fucking awesome, I was so good. Yesterday was just Vince Welnick's birthday, and he just stepped in there and did some great stuff too. So, I mean, I don't know. I have love for all incarnations, all players.
You have to, because they were all part of it.
Yeah, I've got love for the whole ball of wax. Again, some years or some shows or some things, are a little bit more my speed than others. Yeah. But there's no one player in any incarnation that I have, I don't like that.
Right.
Like, there's no negativity around.
No,
because there's so much negativity in life otherwise, right?
That's why we need this, because there's enough of that.
Yeah.
And there's always something to like, even though we all have 1,000 different opinions on the band and performances, we all agree on the one thing that we love it.
Yeah,
like there's something
definitely.
here, no matter how it's packaged. I think people will say they won't listen to anything past '89. I think they're lying. I think secretly it's a guilty plea. They don't want to admit they do, because it is good.
It's say I don't know if I have much past 89 or 90 on my lists. You know what I mean? Like, right. I think when I look at it's an interesting point, because I've never really thought about it, but I think 89, 90 from Grateful Dead era, like my Spotify, my mix, my stuff that I listen to, I don't know if anything is loaded on after that, but it's not a conscious decision.
Right.
It's just not what's been kind of produced, selected for me to choose from. I'm sure if somebody, if Dave Lemieux comes up with a concert that's like 1992, it's certainly not going to be the year that's going to make me not want to listen to it. It's just not as, it's not as obvious.
Have you ever heard that, at the Boston Garden, Help Slip Fire? I think it's 92.
I will have to listen.
Help Slip Fire.
Wow. That's an unusual.
Everybody's waiting for Franklin's Tower, and Bobby, looks at Jerry, and they're just ready. 1, 2, and you do.
So cool.
That was really, really cool.
I'd love to hear that. I would love to hear that.
Nobody was expecting, and there was that feeling that making a conscious effort here. Let's just try to do something different.
Yeah. Why not?
And they did. It was fantastic.
Well, let's go in and play the Sunrise and the Terrapin. So we have from that specific tape, from that specific show, that was just your everything. So we're gonna go in and do that.
This tape was never out of my car. I held on to this tape until I actually went back in 1991 to see Tom in Oregon and Eugene. I brought this tape. It was the only bootleg I ever held on to that I never lent out. It was just not because he gave it to me, but because I loved it. I loved the Terrapin. I loved so when I went there, I actually had it with me, and I traded that tape ironically for a Fleetwood Mac Peter Green tape, but I had it all, and to a friend of his, I traded it up to him. Here, I'll trade to this UVM 78 but I had it forever. It was the only tape that was ever in my car. Any car I owned, it never left. So this was really, really special.
Brings you back. All right, well, let's enjoy it, and then we will be back with
one more story and one more song. So everybody enjoy listening to Terrapin from University of Vermont, May 6, 1978. Into Sweet Donna Jean singing Sunrise.
Shadows many years ago. Suddenly flies open and a girl is standing. Eyes alight with glowing hair, all the fancy face is fair. She finds you fair and frozen in the light state. Gain me tell will risk uncertain pains of fear. I will not forgive you if you will not take the chance. Saying the game at least a try. A soldier being much too wise. Strategy was a strength, not disaster.
Back from listening to Sunrise and Terrapin, and we have one more song, and the story. I mean, the stories could go on and on, but we have some kind of closure to the story. I mean, it's kind of a sad ending, but not to give it away. I want to hear you share. But tell me about, brought music back and forth. Tell me about a couple more special picks, and then what's going on.
Well, this last pick is, this is August 1978.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Garcia band. Tom and I, it was one of those, one more time that he had once again gone to Eugene, came back. I'm sorry, Eugene, because people in Oregon are really going to get mad when they hear me say it wrong. He had come back, and this time, he brought back a cassette, and, like always, called me up, and I'm back in town, Sean, you need to come. And he was so super excited. He said, I just got this recording of Jerry singing this gospel song that is just going to ruin you. You need to come over here right now and listen to this. Okay. And I was so excited. I'm like trying to picture in my mind, what could this possibly be? And went over to the house, popped this tape in, and I heard I'll Be With Thee. And I was beside myself. I was happy, and I was crying not because I was sad, it was so beautiful, and I could not imagine, I've heard Jerry play in all these other styles, and here was this bona fide, no holds gospel song that was so sweet and soft, and, really, for me, especially at that time, is how I kind of saw Jerry when you took away the Grateful Dead and all this, and here's this guy who had all this inside of him, and to hear that song go, that really put Jerry on a different level for me.
It's really vulnerable, I'm sure.
It is. It's a very vulnerable song, and the fact that he had that in him, and then of course made me think, well, like I'm sure a lot of people, well, if Jerry likes gospel music, I need to listen more to this then. But it's just, I think it could be argued it's one of his most beautiful songs.
I've never heard it before this. So, I mean, that's such a benefit of getting to meet people and friends is, I mean, all the great music I get exposed to, I wouldn't have stumbled upon. So I'm excited about this one.
And that's what Tom really was for me. He turned me on to, I mean, not only just the Dead, but I mean, what older brothers do. I mean, they, from the Dead, he'd say, have you ever heard Traffic? Who's Traffic? And look at through all this record collection and say, this leads into this, and
we could talk forever about it. My favorite, the Traffic, like the one thing I think about Traffic all the time still is, and it's this similar to the Dead with the lyrics, is some of the songs, some of the lyrics, I mean, just the transcending, and I've just been noticing that more and more. And then to think that these guys were, in their 20s when they wrote this music too, is just like a whole nother level of mind-blowing. But I don't know, 10 years ago listening to the Low Spark of High Heel Boys, and I'll still listen to it and just think like, God, I mean, it just couldn't be more and more and more true in our society and world, and just have had that like foresight, it's amazing.
It still resonates, and like you said, from these guys were in their 20s.
They were in their 20s,
Talking like they'd already lived a whole bunch of knowledge and 2 lifetimes already, and in their 20s coming up with,
Yeah, Bob Dylan's music, and Positively 4th Street, I mean, that's got to be, and then Jerry's version of it, Jerry's version of it is my favorite, but I mean, yeah, these lyrics, these things, they're just, it's so cool. No, Harry Nilsson, that's one of my other absolute all-time favorites. I could talk forever about him, and, Harry, Chapin, and I mean, just, I don't know, so much good stuff.
I have some Harry Chapin bootlegs that will blow you away. That made me appreciate him in a much deeper, because I had kind of said, yeah, Harry Chapin's cute. And these songs, he just pulls it.
Oh, I mean, he was heartbreaking. Taxi.
WOLD, that song, the lyrics, I have the
that.
DJ and WOLD. Okay, you need to, there's some really cool shit. There's some cool shit. Well, we are going to, so I want to hear, because again, we can talk forever. So tell me, so you have the music, we're going to play the Jerry Garcia band next, but tell me, what you've got going on, coming up this summer, because this is really meaningful and kind of, plays into your whole story.
Yeah, well, about 16 years ago, Tom passed away, and he was en route. At that time, his plan was, I want to go back to Oregon, John. I got to get out of here. I know this is where I want to be. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, he was very sick. So ultimately, it was, I want to go back there because that's where I want it to end. That's where I want to be. So he didn't make it there, but I said, I was at his funeral, and I said, well, I'll get you back to these hot springs that he had taken me to when I was 20 years old. Only one time, but left an impression on me that has never gone away. So finally this October, after 16 years, I get to finally take his ashes home to where take him home to where he wants to be. So for me, it is a little bit like the story of, that Water of Life story about the Grateful Dead man who, at the end of the story says, look, you paid my debt so I could be buried, and where everybody else said, no, we're not going to do it, because everybody knew he wanted to go to Oregon, and I said, I don't know how long it takes me, I'll get there. And now finally I feel like I'm paying that debt, so now you can be free. You can finally completely move on and and be in those hot springs, which he loved more than anything, where he was always coming and going from. It was always, I'm going back to Oregon, I'm coming back to Oregon, back and forth between that and Massachusetts. So, this song is really fitting with that. And there's not a lot of words to it either, which is interesting. He doesn't have a lot of words, but it doesn't need them.
It has a lot of meaning.
It does.
It's chock full of meaning and emotion. Well, let's hear that, and then we'll come back and say goodbye. So this may be a first for a few of you as well. And, let's go and enjoy.
Just like the prodigal son, when he was far from home, he wanted to go back and tell his father he had done wrong. He fell on his knees, the Lord answered his pleas, said, if you go back home, I'll go with thee. Just like Israelites who were Pharaoh's slaves, they suffered in bondage and they prayed for I'll be with thee. Oh, the powers in my hands. I'll be with thee. Well, through the water, through the flood, through the fire, through the blood. I am the Lord thy God, and I'll be with thee. I'll be with thee. Can't you hear it saying, I'll be with thee? I hear God saying, I'll be with thee. You don't have to be afraid. I'll be with thee. Anyway, I'll be with thee. Through failure, success, I'll understand when you've done your best. I am the Lord thy God, and I'll be with thee. I'll be with thee.
Well, we are back for just a quick goodbye. This has been so much fun. I mean, I'm so glowy and happy. This has been so much fun.
This has been a real pleasure for me, and I've told you this before. I think what you do is every bit as important as what the Tapers did before even we have the internet. You bring us all together, and you bring, it's not just the music, and you're a really strong conduit for that. And I think what you're doing is incredibly important. I'm very, very happy to be a part of it and support you.
Well, I appreciate it. It is all for the love and the community, and I love that I get to meet everyone, and I just especially love meeting somebody local, because we just discussed that we're both going to be at Dark Star Orchestra in May, and I'll be here before we know it, and I had just bought one ticket, so now I know I have a friend to go with, and that's it. It's the community. I mean, Leo was my last face-to-face. We saw each other at a show that he put on in Southbridge after. So it's self-serving with these local ones, because I get to expand my personal community, and I love it. It's so special to me. So very, very awesome. Well, I guess we will say enjoy and goodbye.
Till we meet again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Stopping strangers, just a shake of hands. Everybody's playing in the heart of gold band.